Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Record Players podcast, objectively the best opinions in music. This week we're going to be taking a look at the discography of Rage Against the Machine and rating it on our tier list from mind blown to trash. Let's get into it. So, for anyone who doesn't know, Rage Against the Machine were a 90s to early noughties to kind of mid noughties to kind of 2019 to present rock band, kind of fusing. They were in that new metal era where lots of bands were fusing elements of hip hop and rap together with rock. Rage Against the Machine specifically covered a lot of the kind of funkier area and a lot of the kind of homegrown for the people energy, whereas very much not the Limp Bizkit side is what I'm trying to get at here. I'm saying new metal, but new metal is one of the worst musical terms in the world because it's means nothing. But yeah, Rage Against the Machine had 4 studio albums for popular release that we're going to be ranking in our systems now. There were other releases, but I don't want to go into them and compare them, so I've only made us do 4. I hope you're both okay with that. If you like what we're doing, give us a like, give us a follow for all of our future videos. If you disagree with any of our orders of the lists, let us know below what your list would have been, how you'd rank the albums. Let us know. We'd love to see it. So without further ado, let's go to Haddy first, because you're the first name I saw.
Okay, you just want me to rank them all, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Let's start with self-titled. Obviously, first album I'm going to say is a mind blown album. Going on to Evil Empire. This is the most tricky one, I think. I'm going to give it a fire. Next on to Battle of Los Angeles. I'm also going to give that a fire. And round things off with Renegades as a pat on the back.
Fair enough. I think this is going to be one of the strangest episodes for discographies because it's such a small discography and I think generally pretty well kind of worked out at this point. But let's see, Dennis, you're usually good for a spanner in the works.
I have several spanners in the works. So
here we go with the self-title being trash. Cut the stream.
Self-titled is fire.
What?
And we'll get into it.
You know, I just instinctively put it on mind blown without even thinking then. Okay, yeah, no, go on.
Muscle memory.
Already off to a bad start then.
I have my reasons. Evil Empire is a backpack.
Oh.
And told you I was going to throw some spanners in the works. Battle of Los Angeles is mind blown.
Oh, come on, dude.
Wait a minute.
Why are you like this?
And Renegades.
Are you only just now deciding?
I was taking your advice from last week. You know, wait until the discussion.
What did you give it? Sorry, I was abusing you when you said it.
Let me go for a fire.
A fire?
He's saying their covers album is on the same level as the debut.
I have my reasons.
God. And the Battle of LA, how is that a better record? Right, Jack, get yours out there, please.
Okay. I'm very confused. Which is probably not a bad place to start off. So the self-titled album is a mind-blown album. I look forward to heated debates in just a moment about that.
I'll convince you guys. I'll convince you otherwise.
No hope in hell, dude.
Evil Empire. See, I'm I'm trying to decide if I don't want to have the same list that Hattie has. It's my
What, by putting Empire in backpack?
yeah,
I was tempted to
because
put in backpack, I'll be honest.
if I'm looking at them all, self-titled is the strongest. If I'm picking like tracks that are my favorite, there's more on Los Angeles than there are Evil. I'm gonna go in that order: Evil Empire, Backpack, Battle is Fire, Covers, Backpack. I think. Oh, we can go into reasons in a second. Mine looks like a dick.
Thought you'd get that in there.
Jack, I had your list pretty much until this morning.
Yeah. Okay.
With that one change.
Yeah. You gave your list first. We'll come back to you then, Hattie. What is your reasoning behind this ordering of the albums?
My reasoning.
No, Hattie.
What, in general?
Well, because like I'll ask specifically with Evil Empires. That's the one we're talking about at the moment.
Yeah, this is the most contentious one for me. So I would agree, I think, with what you said in terms of how you differentiated it. I think there's more tracks on the Battle of LA that I enjoy and would listen to. Say if I was in a rage mood, I would definitely come back to that album probably more. Evil Empire, be honest, Evil Empire, when back in the day, you know, when we were youngins, that was a big disappointment of an album to me. After hearing the self-titled, I thought like the riffs were dumbed down. There was no like, you know, Morello's known for being like experimental with guitar more than most people, but on the self-titled, he was still, you know, doing like semi-traditional like, you know, leads, which I was into. And Evil Empire went the complete other way, where everything was like an experimental, scratchy, you know, whammy guitar solo. And even though I liked it, I just felt it was such a stark contrast and divergence from the self-titled, which I loved, that I couldn't get into it. Like in hindsight, now I appreciate it for doing something different and how like raw and live sounding it is, which I think made me bump it up a tier. But I think if I had to pick and choose, probably LA is the stronger record slightly between my two fires.
It's definitely a less like it's a less defined sound. And I think if they'd followed that path entirely and not revisited their self-titled sound, I think they would have been written off as a kind of one album wonder kind of thing. But I think, like, to me, Evil Empire, I agree, was at the time a like big disappointment the first time I heard it. It's grown on me, but it's grown on me in the way that I appreciate it as part of the whole. It still never like it jumps out for me.
Exactly. I like it as a whole. I don't love it, but I like it as a whole. But yeah, you're right. LA, you can chuck some tracks on individually, which you couldn't do as much with Evil Empire yet. I think we're on the same wavelength there.
Okay. Those first three tracks on Evil Empire, though, are strong. And I think it kind of falls off a cliff after the first three tracks. Like those first three tracks are some of my favorite Rage tracks, you know, People of the Sun, Bulls on Parade, Vietnam. But
can we talk about how fucking Rage Against the Machine might be the best band at starting albums? Like
bomb track,
almost without fail. If you look at the first 5 tracks on their albums, at least 3 are bangers. Usually 4, from what I'm seeing here, and they're almost always like the best tracks of the album.
Yeah, I feel like that's self-titled.
I don't know the name for the graph, but I feel like a general, like, you'd get, where am I on my hand? I feel like you get like the hype at the beginning, potential for a lull around maybe 5 to 7, then a little bump at 5 to 7, and then they try and end the album a little like calm so you can reset your mind towards the end. But they hit that quality every time on the opener.
Yeah, that is true of many bands, including potentially some of these albums. But what I will say is that is not the case on self-titled. From front to back, it's near flawless. Like, let's get on to Dennis. Yeah, Self-titled, while I'd say I don't come back to it as much as I did in my youth, like self-titled to me is a near flawless record. It's potentially one I could put in my top 10, definitely in my top 20 of all time, maybe top 10 on a given day. Dennis, how is this not a mind blown? And how is LA better? This is what I need to hear.
LA has better bars. So I think the self-titled is good, but it's much more of a rock album. I think Evil Empire, you start to get more bars. So, like it definitely sounds a lot more like a rap record. You can hear that hip hop influence. Whereas for instance, with the self-titled, it's kind of like the verses aren't as long. It's not, it's not like a paragraph worth of lyrics. Like some of the songs on there, there's what 12 lines in the whole song, just repeated over and over again, because it's trying to get that punchy rock feel. But then it comes to Evil Empire, and something like Vietnam, that's bars from back to front. So that's where that more hip hop influence comes in. But what I hear as well a lot more in Evil Empire is sort of a punk rock influence coming in as well.
Definitely.
That's why for me, on tracks like Revolver, on tracks like Tire Me, tracks like Down Rodeo, that's not so much what I'm into. That punk influence isn't so much what I'm into. But come back to Battle for LA, and you've got bars, and you've got more. You've got that original sort of rock sound coming in. You've got tracks that sound like Led Zeppelin tracks on maybe not on that album actually. That was Bulls on Parade, which is more the
so you're saying like
polyrhythm.
You're saying similar thing to what I was saying to Evil Empire, where like the reason you have put LA so highly is a big factor of that is because you look at it in the whole, and it's like the culmination of their work up to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's interesting that you frame it like that, where you're going into it because you want the bars and you want the most hip hop album. I agree. They probably through their career they got more hip hoppy, at least in terms of like the sound. But like, I think that's why we diverge, because I think it's the self-titled is the perfect kind of like raw, aggressive rock sound that just happens to have a different vocal style on top. It just happens that the vocalist is a rapper. That's what I thought worked better than when they went almost like straight hip hop, especially even if we've gone to like Renegades, where obviously they're covering hip hop songs and literally it's just hip hop, but played with like a live band, and that's not necessarily what I think is the best thing about them, which is another reason why I put the covers album at the bottom. So it's interesting. That's what you like the most out of them, because I would be the complete opposite.
Move on from the Battle of LA, Evil Empire era too much. I would say like the being a fan of punk, I agree with Dennis that like it's one, not what I look for with Rage. With Hattie, but I like that they were trying stuff out and they didn't fall into either camp that they were kind of flirting with too hard. However, I will say they're not at their best when they're doing that punky stuff that's pure aggression. I think
Evil Empire, you mean?
Yeah, I think they
that
have.
Kind of sound, yeah.
They have incredible, unique styles within their band of that the funk-driven rock sound, and the rap scream vocals. Like, everything's a mixture of different kind of like cultural music coming together, and that like sells their brand as well as being like a good bit for their sound. So that's like for me personally, that's why Evil Empire is their weakest, is because they haven't got that edge. Whereas even on Self-Titled, because those elements are so raw, they're like right in your face and you can see all the bare bones of what they're building. Then on LA, they've refined it a little bit and they've given it to you in a nice package, but it's still the same core elements.
Yeah, no, I I agree. Like one of the things I liked the most about Rage, at least back in the day, was the funk element, which is so prominent on the self-titled, like you said, with songs like, you know, Take the Power Back, things like that. That I thought it was that was the perfect marriage. But also, going back to Evil Empire was, you could say, maybe was like the most raw and aggressive and stripped down sound. But I still don't think it was, they reached the like height of like passion and aggression that you would on a song like Freedom, for example, the final track on
Oh yeah,
fucking track, man.
Like at the end when he's like freedom, like that's some of like the most raw, passionate like screaming I've ever heard.
I've lost my voice so many times screaming to Rage, and that's one that always gets me because they're so fucking long. Like when he's screaming freedom, it's like freedom.
Oh yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
And it's just, there's no end to it.
So powerful as well.
Yeah.
With the chromatic melody, so epic.
Yeah. Like I agree. You know, maybe you could say, oh, his lyricism got better as he went along, but it was never something that like I counted as like a important thing.
I would never. I wouldn't say that their lyricism was ever weak though. Like because you can like know your enemy from self-titled. It's not like like Dennis is saying. It's not like a full, you know, fucking dictionary length bit of text, but the depth in what they're saying and the like all the literary techniques they're using to flip well-known statements into like counteracting what they're usually meaning, like the lyrical ability and the intelligent writing was there from the off.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like so, like Zach as like a rapper, I never thought he was like had the most like technical approach. It was more of what you were saying. It was like, you know, when we were talking about we had that Tupac discussion the other day, it was the same thing. It was the content. It was the content. Obviously, he meant everything he said, and he was so political.
It's tone and content.
That took prominence. Yeah, that took prominence over him being like, oh, I'm going to have this many rhymes in a line. You know, that's never something that he did, never something that took precedence.
Yeah, I think they've always been. That the music is just a vehicle for the message they're trying to put out. They've always been like that. And the craziest thing is, it was 4 years between self-titled to Evil Empire, and during that time they obviously blew up. They went on they played Lollapalooza. They went on the festival circuit. They could have easily become more poppy, but no, they doubled down. They doubled down on the message on that like revolutionary message.
I think one of the biggest like missed opportunities in time was the fact that they, you know, obviously they stopped making music after 2000. I know they reformed, but like that was like straight, you know, you had like 9/11, you know, George Bush. Imagine the type of music they would have made in that kind of era of like American politics, and they just kind of missed it just before. It's like
super weird as well because
time type thing.
The turn of the millennium for me is always like punctuated by The Matrix.
Yeah,
and they're the credit track on The Matrix.
Is it Wake Up?
Yeah, it's Wake Up.
Yeah. And like it's for one such a perfect pairing, but two, it's just so like cemented in my mind as like that's their era. But that's actually when they fucking stopped, and they didn't come back till like 2007, I think, or something like that for a little bit. But yeah, let's talk about the elephant in the room. That
Dennis's tier ranking.
That cover album.
Okay.
I want to start off by saying my piece, and then I'll give you guys a moment to talk. This album kind of put me in an odd place for ranking it because I had to pull in all of the different external aspects that Hattie hates me pulling in to decide where to put it, because I feel if a number of other rock or rap artists put out a cover album, it's never this good. I think a number of rock or rap artists put out an original album, it's never this good. If a different band apart from Rage put this out, it's probably higher up a tier list in their discography of work, but because of the quality of Rage's other work, this isn't up there. But Microphone Fiend, Pistol Grip Pump, Renegades of Funk, Housing, How I Could Just Kill a Man, Maggie's Farm, like certified fucking banging covers to the point of like they're superseding the original in my listening.
Yeah, it has standouts. It has standouts, but I don't want to listen to the whole thing like I do with, well, any of the studio albums,
Jack,
any of the original albums.
I would add even some of the hardcore punk, the Minor Threat, In My Eyes, the Down on the Street by the Stooges. And if you add those in, that's what, 8 out of 12 tracks?
Yeah, you've missed
great on
two,
this album?
I think, from there.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. So I when this album first came out, I was in many a young rock band with many another young misguided rock musicians trying to make it in the world. Everybody, and I mean fucking everybody, loved Kick Out the Jams, their cover of it. Yeah, I have never ever been a fan. What's your take?
Not that much of a fan, to be
I
honest.
just noticed it was one you didn't mention there. I've fought against people loving that my whole life. Yeah, but I agree. Like, bar 2 to 4 tracks at very most, it's another album of like, you just sit down and listen to it. And skipping 4 tracks on a 12-track album is verging on too many, but it's not too bad. For me, one of the biggest...
I take a 6 tracks off it that I'd want to continue listening to.
Fair enough. For me, the kind of weakest element of it is the fact that it is like a mixed track album. It's put together of lots of different puzzle pieces that don't necessarily fit together. There's no continuous development of feeling or vibe across the whole album. It is like a mixtape of stuff chucked together. And I think if you gonna hit my quota of weekly catchphrases, but if you rearrange it slightly and you go from the Down on the Streets that like through the In My Eyes and Kick Out the Jams into Microphone Fiend ending on Maggie's Farm still, this album is a fucking contender for any in their discography.
Yeah, I just think if a band does, or whoever does a covers album, I think there's a ceiling in general to how good it can be as an album. Just for me, I can't think of any covers album that I would like class amongst my favorites. I appreciate individual songs that musicians do, especially when they change up the genre, which obviously they're doing here. But yeah, there's a ceiling to how much I can enjoy it versus original material, I think.
There's an interesting case of Streetlight Manifesto, which are like a ska punk band, covering Catch 22, which is another ska punk band's Kesby Nights, but there's shared musicianship between the two bands. So it's a super weird case, but it's a really interesting kind of, here's how they did it then, here's how they've done it now, sort of
but in the same genre.
ideal. Yeah,
But,
it seemed
just as a side note, quick question, you guys, do you just because I'm curious, do you guys prefer covers that completely change the sound up, or do you prefer covers that are like super accurate to the original?
Change the sound up.
So you like it, yeah? I think it's a better idea. Otherwise, what's the point, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I also think the ones that stand the test of time, like Hallelujah or All Along the Watchtower, and like, they're always ones that reinvent the basic building blocks of the track. Okay. The only thing I have left to do before we go through top tracks from each album and then say our final pieces is looking again at your list, Dennis.
Please rethink.
Do you feel like you've got them all in the right place still?
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing that makes me think that Battle for LA is better than the self-titled is on Battle for LA that there's distortion on the bass and it sounds so good. whereas it's not so used on Self-Titled. That, together with the fact that Zach is still spitting more bars, makes that I have to put Battle for LA above Self-Titled. I want to put Self-Titled as mind blown.
Oh. I have lost the Zoom call. I've not just rage quit on Dennis because of his incorrect opinion about different bands. So I am just going to restart it. We need technical difficulties symbol to come up. But at least you can all see now that we do it live. And this is the problem with doing stuff live. Everything can go wrong at the same time. Okay, we will be right back. I'm going to play the outro real quick.
I am ecstatic, as you can probably tell from my face.
I need a house remix of it.
I wrote only one note for that song, and it was fuck Polo G.
I will come over to your house and beat you up. I feel like Dennis is going to throw some spanners in the works.
People were triggered.
What's wrong with you?
Could I put this in Mind Blown?
Wow, we've been going almost a year, and we've we've never had this happen. I promise, this never happens. So I'm gonna give it one more go, and then I might just have to solo the end of the video. Okay, now. I'm not going to make you sit through that same music again. But yeah, comment down below what your order for the 4 albums is. Let me know, why is Dennis wrong? Let me know why Hattie's wrong to like Evil Empire so much. Either one I'm happy to hear. If you're telling me that I'm wrong, I'm not as happy to hear that opinion, but I'll respect your right to have it. I think if we all get back in this time, we go straight for the top tracks on each album in case it closes out again.
Yeah, okay.
Because I have no idea why it's happening.
Right.
So yeah, hopefully we won't get cut off again before we manage to get through it. But Dennis, give me your top track from each of these albums. What should the viewers be listening to or building their playlists with when they come to the Rage discography?
Sure. Self-Titled, it's Wake Up, because that main riff, that bluesy main riff, is just great. And then the drop, Wake Up, where it goes into that. Great, epic. On Evil Empire, I had a few here, but I'd probably say Vietnam, where it's like, turn on the radio, nah, fuck it, turn it off, fear is your only god, where he's kind of, I never actually got that track, but it's all about talk radio, it's all about right-wing talk radio, Rush Limbaugh and all that kind of stuff.
There's a super fucking like gritty guitar tone that's paired with that vocal as well. Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah. On Battle for LA, Maria, just because of the story, it just takes you on this journey.
Okay. Sure. One of the weakest tracks on the album, but you know, I'm not surprised at you anymore.
Play. No, I always loved it because it takes you on this journey of this unnamed woman who's just trying to survive and being taken from place to place.
Okay. I am gonna, while I get them back again, because I don't think it's fair to leave it without getting them, and it's all happened too many times. We'll give you my rundown for the tracks on the albums with the correct version of the top tracks for each. So, the best track on the first album, a lot of people would say that it's I see why it's happening, I think. A lot of people would say there's Bomb Track, Killing in the Name. I'm going to go Know Your Enemy, because it's got what they came back to later on, which is those lyrics that absolutely just like sell the story, but also the groove and the heaviness that they were coming back to. I actually agree with Dennis that Vietnam deserves to be up there. I could also go with People of the Sun or Bulls on Parade, but probably Vietnam would be the one I'd pick. Testify is going to be my track from Battle of Los Angeles. I'd want to give an honorable mention to Calm Like a Bomb and Guerrilla Radio. Sleep Now in the Fire is also up there, probably my second favorite, but Testify is just a fire opening track, and anytime I listen to this album it always gets me hype from the very beginning. My top track from the Renegades is Maggie's Farm, because it is the one that most sells their take on the track, instead of it sounding like a cover of the track, it like reinvents it entirely and it makes it a Rage Against the Machine track. So instead of having anything else that could kind of sound like the original a bit and like you appreciate it for the cover, this is like an entirely new song that they could have come out with content, lyrical content and everything. So yeah, those are my top tracks. What I'm hopefully going to do is I'll leave some time at the end of the video, post credits, for Dennis and Hattie's picks. I'll put them in once it's uploaded, because unfortunately it's live and there's no other way I can do it. So yeah, let me know down below your order for the albums in general. What tier levels would you want to give it, and then let me know what your top tracks are as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, come back next week for album review and another one of our new series, Call and Response. So I'll see you guys then. Peace.
I am ecstatic, as you can probably tell from my face.
I need a house remix of it.
I wrote only one note for that song, and it was fuck Polo G.
I will come over to your house and beat you up. I feel like Dennis is going to throw some spanners in the works.
People were triggered.
What's wrong with you?
Could I put this in Mind Blown?